everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be reviewing the fairly newish to me Nars Liquid blushes. So let's get started. So these come in 4 shades. I have mine in the shade Luster. They come in these teeny tiny cute frosted glass bottles, very similar to their All Day Luminous foundation with a pump, and they are 15 mils, which is like half what you get for most foundations. And this cost me £23. In the US they are $30. I got mine from the Asos website, which does free delivery, which is really helpful. They also are obviously on the Nars website itself, and in the US you can get them from Sephora, but they are just constantly selling out, particularly in this shade and in the Orgasm shade, which is like their staple blush shade in their powder formula. So those two are kind of coming in and out of being sold out and restocked, but as far as I'm aware they are permanent, so it's just about jumping on them as soon as the shade you want comes back in. So as I said, I have the shade Luster, which is like an apricot shade. This shade isn't like shimmery, it's more of a sort of dewy finish. I also have the shade Torrid, which is a more coral shade, which looks like it has some more shimmer in it. And then they have the Orgasm shade, which is kind of their trademark blush shade. And that's a kind of pinky shade for blush, and again, quite shimmery. And then they have their 4th shade, which is Dolce Vita, which is a dusty rose shade, which I was also kind of really tempted by, but this is kind of me in a bottle, this shade, so I was going to try this one first. So I will say I've used this a few times now, and at the moment I'm very on the fence because I have had a few little issues with applying it. Now they say on their website that this can be applied over or under powder, over or under foundation. So it's supposed to be really flexible in how you use it to get a more vibrant finish or get a more subtle finish if you apply it obviously under your foundation. You can also layer it with their powder foundations. So for me, like obviously your kind of natural tendency is to put creams on first before powder, but for me, if a blush is going to work, if I'm going to use this blush, it has to work over powder. And the reason for that is that I literally wear bronzer every single, if I've got makeup on, I've got bronzer on. That is one of my like staple go-to items. If I was going to walk out the door with one thing on my face, it would be bronzer. Maybe it would be mascara. It would be the second thing. Bronzer would be the second thing. And I don't use cream or liquid bronzers currently. I want to try the Chanel one, but that's another story. I digress. So yeah, I'm always going to have powder bronzer on my face, and I'm not going to want to put blush on before my bronzer because that's just not going to gel well. It's just not, for me, that order is just not going to work. So if it can't work on top of a powder bronzer, if it's going to take the bronzer off, then it's never going to work, because for me this is very much going to be like an everyday kind of blush because it is really nice and natural and subtle. So if I've got bronzer on, it's got to work on top of it. It can't take it off. I don't want it taking my foundation off. So that is the #1 key thing for me. And the few times I started using it, it did take my makeup off. So I watched a few reviews on it before I bought it, and they all use like a beauty blender. So they would pump the liquid out onto their hand, go in with a beauty blender and then pat it in. And it looked fine, it worked for them doing that, for them. But for me, when I did that with a beauty blender, it was taking off my bronzer and maybe even a little my foundation. So I've stopped using the beauty blender, and I now either go in with a stippling brush like this. So I'll put it on the back of my hand and I'll just sort of pat my brush around until it's nice and even, and then pat gently on top. And that has worked pretty good. It's also worked to use my fingers. So again, back of the hand and just lightly swirl my finger and pat, and that again has not taken my makeup off. So I'm now starting to adjust to it how I want to use it. The advice on the website is that it says to apply with your fingers, like their foundations, they say they want you to warm the product in the palm of your hand and then apply with your finger. So that's what I'll do on one side of my face today, and then I'll use the stippling brush on the other side of my face so you can see what the difference, if any. So it says to shake, so I'm gonna give it a good shake before we go, and then I'm going to pump it onto my Kitco tray, and you see how teeny tiny that is. So I weirdly saw this review the other day on the website that said, oh, you should get more for your money, and I was thinking, I mean, this is gonna last you at least 25 years. So it's very runny, as you can see, and a tiny little pump, but that does go a really long way. So I'm just gonna spread it out a little bit and just tap in, tap, my finger in there, and I've barely got anything on, and I'm just gonna tap. So at the moment what I've got on is I've got foundation and I've got a powder bronzer, and I also sprayed some Fix Plus so that the powder wasn't really sort of sitting on my skin. It has been Fix Plussed down. So no excuses, blush, no excuses. So you can see when it goes on, it's really vibrant, and that's gonna suit a lot of skin tones because it shears out really easily. So if you're paler, you can use less product and just shear it out, and if you're more deeper skin, then you can just use it and like barely shear it out, or just build it up and use more. So I think it's gonna work for lots of skin tones. So do you see how sheer that is? You can see the difference, but it is just really natural, healthy glow. So I'm just gonna build that slightly on the apples of my cheek. And it does just go in really easily and quickly. It doesn't have any smell at all, so if smell bothers you, you'll be okay. So you can see it is just really natural, pretty apricot shade, and it is really quite sheer, which I like. I like to still, because my foundations I generally use like a sheerer or like a light to medium coverage foundation, so I do still want my skin to look like skin, which this really does. It doesn't give you too much opaque coverage, but obviously you just can build, I mean, you can see how much is left, basically everything is left. So you can just build this as much as you want, but it also shears out really well, so it's going to work for lots of people, and that has not taken the product off at all. So let's go in with a stipply brush, because I'm not really a fan of using my hands to apply. I just think it's messy, it's dirty, it's annoying, so I'd much rather use a brush or a sponge. So let's try with the stippling brush. So again, I'm just patting my brush into the product and moving it around until I feel like there's like an even amount on the brush. And I'm going to start more up here, because I do find like this travels in very quickly, so I'm just going to start up here and move the product down, and I'm just tapping really lightly to make sure nothing gets moved. And can you see that's kind of building it up much easier than I find with my fingers? I guess just your finger is really small. That's the problem. Even though I've used, you know, that whole pump now to do both sides of my face, it still looks really quite nice and light and natural. But it's definitely built up easier and quicker, and it's gone in easier and quicker with the brush, because it is just, I guess, bigger than a finger. But we'll just show you quickly the product swatch on the back of my hand, so you can see, without it being too blended, what kind of colour you're getting. You can see it's just this really lovely glow to it on the skin, really natural, really light, really beautiful for every day. So this is obviously not blended in, and you could obviously blend this as much as you want. I've kind of gone for a kind of medium intensity today, but you could build this up if you're deeper toned very easily, and you can also really sheer this out. If I just show you that on the back of my hand now, just moved around a little bit, it's very quick, very easily sheared out. So if you are paler skinned, or if you just want a really natural blush, this is really flexible, and you are just never going to use one of these up, I don't feel. I really hope they come out with more shades, I'd love to see some more neutral tones, some more pinky tones, some more plummy tones. I'd love to see a really big range of these because I think they're so pretty. You get so much product for your money and they're so easy for every day to wear for so many people. So yeah, big thumbs up from me, but don't use a beauty blender. Don't use a beauty blender. Bad things happen to me. That's all I'm gonna say. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this review and I hope to see you in a future video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time. Bye for now. Bye 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 bye.